Okay, in this video, we are going to talk about the reports UI. This is part two. So go check out the other video, part one of this two-part series. And I'm going to walk through some tips to make the experience of using a new reporting more insightful, more delightful, and hopefully more powerful for you. So let's dive in. The reports can be found on the top left corner of our nav bar. So you can go and find reports there. And we're just going to go ahead and dive in to the reports homepage. So tip number one for this video is going to be using any versus all. So I'm going to actually just start with a page inventory template. We talked about templates in our last video. And I'm going to demonstrate this capability. So in their filters here, you can actually select different operators. You can say any or all. Any will make a more broad match for these filters. So you'll actually see with every filter you apply, generally you'll see more rows qualify. So you actually see the list of records that match these filter criteria expand, because if any of those criteria are met, then they'll show up. But if you use all, then only it'll become more restrictive. For every filter you apply, we're using now and logic that says, hey, this filter needs to be true, and this condition needs to be met, and this other condition needs to be met. So let's say I wanted to add another condition for, let's say 404 errors. I'm going to filter by this value, and that'll be a condition. And then that I apply a filter. And then let's say we also want to allow, maybe I'll switch it to, you'll see it because it's all is getting more narrow, but let's use any. In this case, I could say initial page status code. And then I could also include for, let's say 200 status codes. So if it matches 200, now it's going to be a much larger number of records that match, 2,714. So it grew quite a bit. But this is a pretty powerful tool. It's used often in like a lot of database languages, and allows for more specific or more targeted filtering with ObservePoint, more flexible filtering. So in this case, I switched it back to all, and here you are, you're seeing that all these conditions are not met. That's because a initial page status code cannot be both 404 and 200. So you have to think about conflicting conditions there in some instances. So just want you to be aware of that capability, and can lead to more powerful, more customizable filters. Okay, the next tip is copy to clipboard. So you may be familiar already with some of our export options. You can copy the entire table to a clipboard, or export it to be downloaded. But also a tip that you may not be familiar with, tip number two today, is to highlight certain cells and actually do Command C on a Mac or Control C on a Windows. And I can actually copy just this section of the table. And then if I go over to Google Sheet or a spreadsheet, I can actually paste this in, and it will include just those values that I selected. So pretty cool. You can basically highlight a selected area and copy that to clipboard exclusively. So that's tip number two. Tip number three is grouping. Now, grouping, I cannot tell you enough how crucial it is that you master grouping to take full advantage of the ObservePoint platform. And I'll show you, just demonstrate. I'll actually group by the final page status code. When you group by a column, you unlock statistics associated with that particular column. So in this case, there are statistics associated with pages with a final status code of 0. Anytime you do a grouping, you'll see this new column called unique rows in the group. And what it actually does is it represents the number of encounters or instances of that status code. But in this case, it's the status code. But when you add additional columns, it will have a different meaning. So, for example, I'll actually group by another value. Let's do cookie count. And so now you can see that 0 status code row has become 2 rows because there's 2 unique cookie counts. that are now represented. 5 of them, 5 instances of the final page status code 0 had a cookie count of 0. But 2 instances of final page status code of 0 have a cookie count of 1. So as you add more groupings, you'll see that that initial number 7, which we had, in fact, I'll ungroup here, we had 7 pages with the final page status code. You'll see that further subdivided with every grouping you add, assuming there are unique values. So this can be a little difficult and challenging for our users, and it takes practice. So I really strongly recommend you practice grouping by lots of different values, and I'll show you some examples of groupings that I really love. So one example is in our cookie inventory report. You'll see in this template we actually already group by cookie name, cookie domain, cookie party type, and then you can see the count of encounters or instances that meet all three that follow all those 3 columns, the values in each of those 3 columns. So in this case, we're finding 255 pages that have a test cookie from doubleclick.net that is third party. Let's say I want to add another column, and I'll call it the cookie compliance status column. And you'll see by default here, it's showing a value of 1. And 1 isn't what I want. I want it to show unapproved, approved, or not configured. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually group by this column too. When I group by that column, now it gets added to our set of columns here, and you'll see that it's included as text and even has some color, which is nice. But if you're looking at your reports, you're wondering, how do I turn this unique count into the text string? The answer likely is grouping. So you'll find that that's very, very powerful. Another call I wanted to, so that is our third tip for this video. And then I wanted to call out the fact that you can also ungroup all. So this could be convenient. You can actually ungroup by a whole set of columns. And this could be nice if you're trying to get down to like the page level detail, like if you're trying to get to that final URL and you need to export a list of all the pages that is available to you. So that is it for this video. Again, practice with grouping. Take advantage of the any versus all options. Copy to clipboard, and can watch more of our tips videos for additional insights and pro tips in the future.